and anger. I mean, it consumed this guy Saul. He hated the Christians. He consumed it. I mean, 24/7. I got to kill him. 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 He consumed this. And then, bam, you get down to verse 6, and what happens? Lord, what do you want me to do? So somewhere in the white writing of verse 5, Saul becomes a believer. And man, he gets committed. Now, I love this because he's saying, Lord, here's my life. Just tell me what it is you want me to do, and I'll do it. Why? Because he's committed. And I'll give you everything I have. I mean, he could continue in his current profession, could he? Why? Because he was a murderer. So he couldn't go back to that. So basically, he starts from nothing, and he gave everything over to the Lord here. And I love the fact that he said, Lord, what will you have me do? You know what that means? Jesus was the boss. I mean, Jesus is in control of his life. He didn't have his own hidden agenda. It was all about Jesus because why? I'm committed to the cause of Christ. If something else good comes up in my life, I'm not going to embrace that if it supersedes what Christ wants me to do. Jesus, the Lord, was the boss of his life. And John the Baptist, you know what? He had that same passion. He had that same commitment. And the question in the Christian life is this. It's not, is he Lord of your life? The question is this. You ready? Are you obeying him? I mean, that's really the ultimate question. You can talk, yap. You can get up here and you can sing with the best of them. You can stand in the choir and sing with the best of them. Listen to me. I don't care how good you talk. I don't care how smooth you are. What really shows me you're committed to Christ, you ready? obedience. It's obedience. The thing that you know you're supposed to do, if you do them, then that's what? Your talk matches your walk. And that was John the Baptist. He talked a big game, but he backed it up. This guy Saul, well, he's going to see it. He commits his life verbally to Christ, and guess what happens? He lived his whole life that way. I wrote this down this week because when I was looking at verse 5, it really nailed me to the wall. Because it says there it's hard, if you notice in verse 5, for thee to kick against the pricks. That basically means what? That Saul, they had a stick back then with little nails on the end of the stick, and they would poke an ox. They'd poke a cow, get that cow to move. The stick didn't get hurt. The cow got hurt. So here was Saul. He was kicking against everything God's trying to do in his life. And he's thinking, you know what? I'm winning. He wasn't winning, was he? Because you study chapter 8 and everything that's going on there, and the gospel's being spread in Samaria and Judea and Jerusalem, and the thing's exploding, this Christian thing. So Saul, why are you kicking against it? It's not hurting anybody but you, bro. What's up? I love that there. And so I wrote this down this week. Listen to this. The Christian life is this. It's a battle between the will of God and the will of a Christian. I'm going to say it again. The Christian life, when I look at verse 5, Lord, what do you want me to do? The Christian life can be summed up in this phrase. It's a battle between the will of God and the will of a Christian. You know what Christian maturity is? Is when your will and God's will come together. And that's hard for a lot of people because you know what? It's Sunday. It's Memorial Day. I'm going to go to the lake. And it's okay to do something like that, but when the norm in your life becomes all about me, and not about others, what happens? Your will and the will of God seem to collide. And once they come together, you say, God, what do you want me to do? Just tell me, and I'll do it. When that happens, Christian maturity is finally in place. So many Christians live their life in a way they shouldn't. The process of maturity is, here's your will, here's God's will, and as you grow, you know what happens? You begin to develop these Christian marks in your life. And Saul recognized it. I'm going to be whatever you want me to be, and I love that because some people get saved, but they don't give everything to Jesus immediately. It's a process. Paul knew there was only one thing that was needful in his life, and that was simply obedience. He knew that. So the only question for a Christian that ever needs to be asked is what? Lord, what do you want me to do today? Think about it. When you wake up tomorrow morning and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday, the one question ought to be, Lord, what do you want me to do? Just tell me and I'll do it. No guilt trip. No bribing me. I'll just do it. Man, what a commitment to have. This is the standard for every Christian, to cease to do what I want, what I desire, what my ambitions are, and only do what Christ wants me to do. And once you get there, Christian maturity is finally operating in your life. Saul made a verbal commitment, and it was real. John the Baptist made a verbal commitment, and it was real. And you know what happened? Look at verse 6. Okay there, Saul, turned Paul. You talking a good game there, bro. Look at verse 6. And the Lord said unto him, arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. And Saul, verse 8, arose from the earth. There's obedience. So don't talk to me, Christian church in America, that you love Jesus. And you know what? I'm kind of convenient, kind of like my lifestyle. Obedience is the secret to the Christian life. Saul made this commitment. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, and you study the rest of Paul's life, he was committed. His actions matched up his words. The Lord sent him there in different places, and you know what happened when he did? He just served God. Incredible passage here. So many people promise so much and do so little. He promised a simple thing. I'll just do whatever it is you want me to do. And so I wrote this down this week. Don't make all kinds of gigantic promises to God. Just make him one. Lord, I'll do whatever you want me to do. That's the only promise, ultimately, that you and I ought to make. Lord, I'll make one promise. You tell me what I'm supposed to do, and bam, I'm going to do it. Many Christians never get that committed. And you know what, gang? It's hard. Let me just kind of be practical with you now. It's hard being that committed. Because you know why? Because sometimes it gets uncomfortable. Sometimes in just the routine of life, we all go through life, and what happens? Most of us, most of our days can be summed up in what way? No big deal kind of day. How was your Monday? Oh, it was no big deal. Just a typical day. How was your Tuesday? Oh, no big deal kind of day. And most of our life is pretty much like that. Just a no big deal kind of day. And having this type of commitment that John the Baptist had, that Saul/Paul had, most Christians never get there because you know why? They don't want to grow. Most of them don't want to. Why? It's not comfortable. I hate going to the dentist. I hate it. I got to go in 21 days. Who's counting? But I know it's good because what? They're going to take care of me. But it's not easy to grow. You know what's easy to do? Go. Just leave. Don't miss this because this will help you tonight. A lot of times when things don't go your way, guess what's the easy thing to do? Just leave. Why do you think the divorce rate in America is so high? It's not new. It's not new now. I'll trade her in for a younger model. I'll get me somebody a little bit nicer than what he is because he's definitely not the kind of husband that I thought he was going to be. So what happens? It's easier to do what? Check out. It's easier to go than grow, than get in there and humble yourself and bite your tongue and what? Submit yourself to that. It's easier just to go. I mean, think about it. When you're dating, it's fun, isn't it? Man, he was great. Oh, she's wonderful, right? You pick up the phone, hey, honey. Oh, let me tell you about what happened last night. We just yap, how great he is. And you kind of say in a way, you know what? I just could eat him up. 5 years after you're married, you wish you had. You know why? It's not new now. I mean, what you see right here, it's hard to grow where you're at. It's hard for me. I can talk a good game, but to stay bloomed and planted where God wants to use you, it's good for a while. It's good when everything's new, but the easy thing to do when things don't go well is to check out and just go. We see that with church members, don't we? We see professional church hoppers. They go to church for 2 or 3 years. Guess what happens? Don't like the preaching now. That music guy over there, ugh. The program, they just don't have all the programs that I think my kids need or my church I think they should have. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check out of here. I'm going to go find me another church. Why? It's easier to grow. And let me say this. I understand that sometimes you ought to leave a church. If there's sin happening in a church, you ought to get out of there. If they're not teaching you the Bible and you're not growing spiritually, you ought to get out of there. But here's what I know. More people check out on a church and they leave, and you leave under the umbrella of what?